when you go, we're doing it live.
Yeah, we're doing it live. We're doing it live. All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Knights of the Nerds Table. I'm your host, EJ, and I have some great news for you. The boys are back in town. Guess who's back?
Yes.
I got my boy Dieter here on my right. What's going on, Dieter?
Hello. Man, it's been a long couple of months, but I am moved. I am
Thank goodness.
out of the old place. I'm into the new place. I've got a setup that is working, at least for now. I'm gonna, as I get more settled, I'm gonna try to add some nice new things. Like I want to put up a monitor over here, so I can do research while I'm talking. But I'm here. I'm in Orlando, Florida. It is 70 degrees. It's beautiful, and I'm ready to talk about some Batman.
I'm jealous. See, we've got a little bit of a system going on here, right? We're taking over the East Coast. We've got me in New Hampshire. We got EJ in Virginia. We got Dieter down in Florida. We've got our bases covered here.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now people can dox us, which is excellent. Now,
it's like Batman Incorporated. We've got Batman for every State of the Union. We're going international soon.
And I also brought back my boy Josh, our producer. Look, he made us look all sexy in this setup. A little bit new stuff here.
I'm trying.
So the Nerds Table's been in the gym a little bit, like we've been working out a bit. We're now showing off our new abs, right? We're ready for sexy hot boy summer coming up in a few months. So really excited to see that. But anyway, we are here today to talk about my favorite comic book hero and the best comic book hero of all time, obviously. At least the most iconic and the one that has a little bit more exposure on the big screen than more of the other iterations. Bruce Wayne himself, the Dark Knight, Batman. All right. Now, we just had this movie come out, The Batman by Matt Reeves. I absolutely loved it. I actually have a review of that coming up soon, maybe the next couple of days that we'll put out there. Actually, let me go to Dieter first. Josh is doing some stuff. Dieter, have you seen The Batman yet?
I haven't. I've been too busy.
No.
Man, it's been a crazy week. So literally, I am 2 weeks out of moving. The first week was unpacking. The second weekend, we had some friends come into town. And I went to go see AEW Revolution, which took up my entire life for that weekend. And I work full time, so no, I have not seen a single thing about the Batman.
No.
I hear it's good. I'm really excited to see it, but I cannot talk about it in the slightest because I know nothing about it.
Oh no, you should see it. It's the best film of the year so far, I would say. So really excellent stuff by Matt Reeves. I put out a review about it. We're going to put that out in a couple of days, so look forward to that. Josh, you've seen The Batman. Really quick, tell the people how you felt about it.
I loved it. Honestly, it was an excellent film. There's not really much to not like about it. I had high expectations, I'll be honest, and I am pleased to say that my expectations were met. Because although I did have high expectations, I also have seen the absolute dumpster fire that has been Warner Bros. Studios over the past few years. And for those of you who don't know, I'm sure most of you do know that we have a lot of these projects. DC put up this whole hype video about their upcoming projects for this year, and they've already pushed back Aquaman, The Flash, I think a couple of the other films, and it's just sad to see continuing chaos and disorder for Warner Bros. and DC, but at least they hit on this one. Well done, Warner Bros. Good job. You did something right.
I think it was more
real quick. I am repping the Batman shirt. I just felt like this was the appropriate video for that. So
I would say it's more of a thumbs up for Matt Reeves and Warner Bros. Just from stepping away from that project and not having as much to do with it than anything else. And I'll just tell this to Dieter. Dieter, I don't think we're ever getting that Flash film. We're never seeing it, ever. It was announced in like 2014. I don't think we're ever seeing that film.
Happen. But I gotta ask you, if I may, for me and anyone who's watching at home, a little bit of a spoiler for your review. Maybe not a spoiler for the movie, but for your review specifically. Yeah. How did they handle Riddler? Was Riddler good? Because Riddler is like the hardest villain to get right.
Yeah, because the one thing I was worried about, and I said this in my review, is that I worry that people would treat the Riddler just the same as the Joker in live action, you know what I mean? And not make any actual differences between those two characters. The Riddler is not as chaotic as the Joker. The Joker is the agent of chaos, like he says in The Dark Knight, right? Whereas the Riddler is more about orderly. He's more about. He's not about chaos, really. He's definitely about taking things down. But he's more about giving these clever riddles for people to figure out, and not necessarily as much of a madman as Joker has been. Now, there's some parts I think they really got that character right. I think Paul Dano did a great job in the role. He's definitely not Jim Carrey. If you're expecting a Jim Carrey type performance, is not what you're going to get from him at all. All the way up to the very end, he really acted in character. But at the very end, he kind of makes a switch where I feel that he takes on some characteristics that would be usually from the Joker that I felt was a little out of character for this Riddler and the Riddler in general.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I will piggyback off of that and just say that I think that I agree with you. The Riddler can be hard to do, especially live action, but also, they do kind of group. The Joker is so recognizable and just such an icon as far as the villain goes that I feel like it is hard to get away from that and make sure that when you are creating other villains or trying to portray other villains in the Batman universe, that you don't take too much Joker and put too much Joker in these other villains, because they really are all their own character and their own thing. And I will say that I think that this Riddler is done very well and very interesting. I like that the movie feels kind of like a horror movie, and that is interesting and fun. And I also mentioned to EJ, we can get into this a little bit more as we talk about some of our favorites, but I liked the detective aspect of Batman. That's something that really stood out to me, where they did a really good job of showing us that, he's a detective. Like he's, the world's greatest detective. He doesn't just kick butt and, ask where Rachel's at. There's other things going on for Batman. And I appreciated that they took the time to show us him investigating and being a good investigator and being smart, which I thought was really, really cool. If you guys want to go ahead and I sent the link for this to the chat, our group chat. If you guys want to go ahead and just take a minute to share those.
Actually, I was doing it right now.
Or Twitter or whatever.
Oh, it's already been shared on the social.
Oh, okay, perfect.
It's already been shared.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna go pull that up on my phone real quick.
Swarms of rabid fans to just come rushing to the chat.
I expect the same exact thing. So I'm glad that we're on the same page.
All 1,000 of them.
Yes. You're gonna go on your Facebook and you're like, oh, there's like 800 friends on this list. Nah, I don't really have 800 friends. Let's be real here.
Actually, I think
greetings and salutations to you, Brian.
Yes, good to see you, Brian.
Thanks for checking in. This is my buddy Brian.
Look at that.
How you doing?
Look at that man with that glorious beard.
It's funny that you say that. It's funny that you say that because Brian here is known as the Beard because he is from the Bear and the Beard podcast. Some fellows.
Yeah, I've checked it out a couple of times. Pretty cool. Over
Facebook, and I've been on a couple episodes with them, and they're really cool guys. So for anybody watching this, whether it be live or if you end up watching this after we're done streaming, definitely go check out the Bear and the Beard podcast. They are awesome. They're great guys. They do lots of cool things. Actually, their main guy, their head guy there, the Bear is at a huge anime fest or anime con thing, and they're raising a bunch of money for I believe it's the Mississippi Children's Hospital. So that's pretty cool that they're out there doing that right now. And I know we haven't talked or touched on anime at all, and they're not really an anime channel either, but they're sort of branching out a little bit, and pretty cool that they're trying to raise some money for a really cool cause. So
I think we've always wanted to branch out as well. I mean, at some point we're going to have to deal with Star Wars fans. I don't know if we really want to, but at some point we'll have to deal with that. But anyway, we got to get into today's episode. We want to talk a little bit about the Batman, but we really want to compare this Batman, Matt Reeves' Batman, and Robert Pattinson's iteration with the other iterations that have come beforehand. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy, Batfleck, and even maybe Adam West, Val Kilmer, who I think is a hidden favorite of mine. I think Val Kilmer did a really good job. spoiler alert there. But I would love to just talk about this a little bit. We're going to go step by step, kind of just comparing some of the things about these Batman to other versions. So the first thing I want to get into is favorite Batmobile. Now, if you're Batman, you can't necessarily just go around town on foot all the time. Your gliders don't always work. So you got to have a really mean machine to kind of drive you around to get to where you need to go, right? And every version of our Batman, from Adam West, who had that little Hot Wheel type of car, right? From Keaton, who had his classic 1989 Batmobile, to Christian Bale, who had the Tumbler. They all had their own version, their own take on the Batmobile, on this iconic vehicle. So I wanted to get to the boys together and really talk about what their favorite iteration of the Batmobile has been. I'm gonna let Josh go first. Josh, how do you feel about the Batmobile? Which one's your favorite?
So I will mention two Batmobiles for my favorites, I suppose. The first one I'll talk about is Christian Bale's Batmobile, and I really like that one because it seemed really believable, right? It was just a vehicle that was produced for the army, and it seemed practical and believable. You know, they took this machine that you believe that could actually exist, you know, whereas a lot of times, like in the comics and whatnot, the Batmobile it's super cool, but it's you know, it's either got the big fins or it's got you know, this huge
it's like a hot
on the back. Yeah, and it's got all these like bells and whistles, and which is cool and it's great. It's part of what makes Batman Batman. But I like the fact that this one just felt real and believable. And then the new one, sorry, Dieter, we're gonna spoil some stuff, but the movie's been out for a bit. Plus, I'm pretty sure you see a little bit of the Batmobile.
Yeah, you see the Batmobile.
That's all good.
I really like the new Batmobile from the Batman as well because it's like a hot rod. I really like it.
It's like a Mustang, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and Dieter, you'll appreciate this. It kind of reminds me of the Charger from Burn Notice in a sense, and I just love that kind of aesthetic and that look. You know, and that whole scene is so cool. It's like revving, and it's in the corner, and you know what's coming, and then you have like the big reveal. It's pulls through the explosion when the Penguin thinks that he gets him, and
I got you.
Yeah, I know it's absolutely great. So definitely, Brian's chiming in. He's letting us know that the new Batmobile is a dream car, and I have to agree. So I guess we kick it over to Dieter now, and obviously Dieter hasn't seen the newest one in live action, but I'm sure you can let us know what you think about some of the other ones.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so first things first, I just want to say that was about 10 minutes before we made a Burn Notice reference.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Burn Notice is a great show. But let me start by saying, because we need to entertain the masses, so let's get some spicy hot takes. Fuck the Tumbler. I fucking hate the Tumbler. I really do. It's far and away for me the worst Batmobile design.
Explain yourself.
Yeah, you need.
You're gonna drop it like that, and you're gonna drop it like it's hot. All right. Explain yourself.
Yeah, so I can back myself up. So like, first things first. Let me be clear. I understand the philosophy behind the way the Tumbler was designed. Because everything about Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Rises was we're trying to make a Batman that can exist in the real world. And if you look at every previous Batmobile before the Tumbler, if you look at how they're designed aerodynamically, engineering-wise, none of those Batmobiles make sense. Like, if you look at the Batmobile from the Tim Burton movies, which, spoilers, by the way, is my favorite design, that thing literally cannot turn without being put on a turntable. It's got a bigger turn radius than the Mack truck. It doesn't make any sense, but it's beautiful.
It's all style, no substance.
Yeah. And you know what? When you have $1 billion and you're making everything Bat-themed, sometimes all you have is no style, no substance, or no style, too much style. You know what I mean. The point is,
too many bells and whistles.
The Tumble.
Not enough horsepower.
When you ask me to picture a Batmobile, I picture a vehicle that is usually emblematic of its time. If you go back and look at Batmobiles throughout the year, almost all Batmobile designs are based off of cars that were popular in their time frame. If you look at the 1960s Batmobile, which is another, I would say, almost perfect design, it's based off of one of those like boat-sized convertibles that you would get in the 60s. Even if you go all the way back to the Batmobile in the 1940s, it's basically just a 1940s roadster. And moving forward, while I haven't seen the Batman yet, I will agree the Batman design, Pattinson's design, looks amazing. It's, like you said, basically taking a Dodge Charger or another similar American-made sports car, and just strapped some fins to the back of it. Whereas the Tumbler is just a tank. It's just a tank that they eventually decided to paint black instead of camo.
All right.
It's blocky, it's boring, it's hard. When I look at that, I don't think Bat, I think Humvee. There's nothing about it that screams Batman to me. And it's aesthetically, it's a mess.
So first of all, it came in black, so that's all that needed to happen for it. Second of all, no, the Tumbler is an absolute masterpiece. I love what Nolan did with that by grounding it, by making it more of an armored mobile. That's what it's supposed to be, right? Now, I will say, from a utility standpoint, I don't necessarily look at it and say, oh, that thing is super fast, or it looks like it can move very timelessly, you know what I mean? Like, it definitely looks like it's going to be cumbersome to get that thing around. But my personal favorite Batmobile, I actually thought about that as you guys were talking, when it comes to utility and style, I gotta give it to my boy Batfleck. Like, if you look at his Batmobile, it's a mixture of what the Tim Burton and early Schumacher movies were, and a mixture of the Tumbler together. It's armored, it has guns, it's ready to go, but at the same time, it can turn. If you notice, as it's divided up into two parts, where the wheels are able to turn around. You see the chase scene where he's chasing Lex Luthor's minions. He's able to crash through walls with the Batmobile. Like, he's able to just wreak havoc, and it's just very usable. So when it comes to a utility standpoint and a style thing, I gotta give it to my boy Batfleck. The Tumbler is a close second, and I really do love Robert Pattinson's vehicle because it's just so different from everything else, right? Like, Robert Pattinson's vehicle really is very different from every other iteration, and I mean, it just looks like a car where you could pick up chicks with it. You know what I mean? Like, you could be Batmobile in the Batmobile by 12 o'clock, but around 9, you can pick up chicks with it. So I think it looks pretty cool. But when it comes to total utility, gotta give it to my boy Batfleck. I think he makes a good marriage of both Batmobiles.
So the Baron Beard podcast is jumping in here with a couple of comments. So we got, I love every Batmobile, even the Adam West one. I think there's something to love about all of them. That was the Beard.
Except the Tumbler, yeah, that's 100%.
You know what he's making valid
Yeah,
points, but I still love it.
Yeah, dude, you're breaking my heart there.
Here. Yes, Batfleck had a great Batmobile. Love using it on Arkham Knight.
Me too.
Now, I will say, full credit to the Tumbler. The Tumbler is easily the most functional looking design. Like, you look at that and you know what it's supposed to be able to do, and it does 100% fit the design aesthetic of the Nolan movies. I just don't. When I'm looking to watch Batman, I don't go to Christopher Nolan movies. When I want to watch a Christopher Nolan movie, then I watch his Batman movies. Because they often feel so separate to me from everything else in the Batman universe, Batman multiverse, really. So it's one of those things of, like, I understand everything that was done, I understand the meticulous level of detail, but I don't like it. Now, that said, I do think some love needs to be given to the Joel Schumacher Batmobiles.
Okay.
Batman Forever that had the 30-foot wings going all the way back down an entire city block with the blue lighting on the sides. And then people give Batman and Robin so much shit, but if you go back and look at the design in Batman and Robin, Schumacher chilled it out a little bit for that one. That one is actually a really good, cool design. It looks almost exactly like the design from the animated series, which is to my mind, probably the most iconic Batmobile of all time.
Yeah.
So,
No.
Joel Schumacher, I know we're probably going to be really mean to you for a lot of this, but just know that your Batmobile designs, they're super camp, and I love them so much.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I think that Schumacher doesn't deserve as much hate as he gives. I'm going to defend him later on, actually. So hold on for that. But I love your hot take on the Tumblr, Dieter. That's the spice we needed. I just think you're wrong, and that's okay. We still love you. You know, you still have a family. We're not going to toss you out into the cold.
It's family.
But
insert dumb photo. Fast and Furious music in the background.
I'm the Jason Todd of this family. Like, I'm part of the family, but no one wants to admit that they know me.
I don't know, dude. That take kind of took me out of it. I don't know what to do with you anymore, bro. But we gotta go on and go on now. You know what Jack Nicholson's Joker said in the very first Batman film, 1989. He looks at Batman as he goes around that grapple. He goes, "Where does Batman get all these beautiful toys?" And that's the next thing we want to get into, right? The tech of Batman, because Batman's not just supposed to be someone who fights, someone who can use his brain to figure out things. He needs to use an array of tech to do his job, right? Now, I want to ask you guys, who did you feel is the most tech-savvy Batman? Now, this time, I'm going to kick it to my boy Dieter. Hopefully, he has a better take than the last one, so we're giving him a chance to redeem it.
Oh, I have got the hottest, spiciest take. I have got the hottest, spiciest take for this, man.
All right.
You gave me the notes. I was prepping for this. I was like, who does have the best tech? Because when I was trying to think back, like, not a lot of the technology stood out to me. And then I remembered Adam West. That man had everything. That man had shark repellent bat spray. That man had a computer that is smarter than every single. That man had a computer.
The shark repellent spray is going to be one of the coolest.
Yeah.
Shark repellent spray is just on another level.
Yeah, sure, the designs were cheesy, but if you want to talk about like who just has the best array of tech and who's the most prepared for everything, it's Adam West. Like, his utility belt could take down every other Batman by itself without Adam West wearing it.
Hey, it defied the rules of logic and the rules of physics, but that belt was pretty rad.
You're goddamn right it did. That's what makes it awesome.
Yeah, what I was going to say, in my personal opinion, I think that the most tech-savvy one, the funny thing, I was going to make somewhat of a point with, like you were saying, because Adam West does have a ton of things going on for him in that utility belt. He has a lot of diversity. But I'm actually going to give this one to our boy Pattinson, who just came out. If you see all the tech he used in that film where it came to, he was able to put these contacts into Selena Kyle's eyes, see from her point of view, and he put contacts on his eyes as well. So he was able to kind of just videotape the night and then go back and watch what he did the night before. From a tech perspective, I think Pattinson, or Battinson as we're going to call him from now on, really took the cake in this and is actually the most tech-savvy Batman in my opinion. Josh, what do you think, my guy?
So you stole my thunder a little bit, but that's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. We'll let it happen.
Don't be too hard.
I tend to agree with you. I think it's Pattinson as well for all the same reasons. And I tried to think about this and really see if it was recency bias, but I really do feel like the technology he used, although it's kind of cool because it looks so outdated, right? Mm-hmm. He's in his Batcave and he's turning the dials and the knobs, and you hear like radio frequencies, and he's trying to like, decode Riddler's messages and do all this kinds of stuff. But it's really, really cool, the different tech that he has. I will give an honorable mention. I know that we're supposed to stick with live action, but I'll dip into animated just for a quick second, just to say that the different types of batarangs, I really, really want them to introduce those into live action, because in the cartoons, just in the comics, you have like, it's like any kind of like trick arrows, right? With Hawkeye or any other hero that shoots arrows, right? You've got like ice batarangs and explosion batarangs and like turn into a bunch of foaming goo that the bad guy gets stuck in batarangs, and electric batarangs, and I really feel like they could have some fun with that in live action, and we just really haven't seen much of that yet. and I would love to see them include that in live action in the future.
I'll also go ahead.
Didn't Bale or Batfleck have the remote control Batarang, or did I just hallucinate?
That was Batfleck, yeah. So Alfred was able to basically control the Batmobile or even the his ships or whatever from the Batcave. So yeah, that was a pretty cool aspect.
Yeah, I just meant specifically with the Batarangs, the throwable Batarangs, just the different tech ones. There's so many different ones across video games, animated series, comic books. There's so many really cool ideas. I'd love to see them bring some of those to the big screen.
I think they've had some trouble with that because it kind of looks a little goofy. It's hard to, because we're so obsessed with making Batman as gritty and dark as possible. It's hard in the realm of reason to kind of do that. But I think that it can be done.
Who's we?
I think directors who are putting together these Batman films, I think that's kind of what they're thinking. But
those guys are assholes.
Yeah. And I'm obsessed with making Batman dark and gritty too, so I'm definitely part of that camp.
That's fine. I mean, we don't need to talk about it forever. I would just say that they kind of did the same thing with Hawkeye, where until this new show, they really didn't focus on the trick arrows a whole lot. They were a little bit more, you would see them every now and then, but they didn't really say or do much with them. But after the show, they were full blown, like full send. Yeah, no, these are trick arrows, and they do cool stuff. So we'll see what happens.
I definitely want to ask our audience as well. I mean, we've talked about the Batmobile, we talked about the tech. Which Batman did you feel was the most tech savvy? Which Batman did you think had the best Batmobile? Let us know in the comments if you're watching, all right?
Yes.
I got some honorable mentions that we got to throw out.
Go for it.
Talk about them. Firstly, we got to talk about the greatest technology of all, George Clooney's Bat credit card.
Yes. Never leave the cave without it.
Oh my goodness.
And you know what? That is the straightest any movie has come to admitting that Batman's superpower is money, and I respect that.
Other
of
than
course
Batfleck,
he has a credit card.
Other than Batfleck literally saying in response to
that's
superpower, I'm rich. Other than that
Damn
one,
it,
yes.
Zack Snyder ruining my day again. I've also got. I do have to throw at Bale for two pieces of technology. First of all, the Bat Summoner from Batman Begins when he's trying to escape Arkham.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
It's basically right after Batman Year One. It's basically torn out those pages, basically.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a great scene. Just the cinematic perfection of him coming down with all those bats flying around. Oh my goodness, I remember.
It's easily the best moment in that movie. Easily.
Oh yeah, excellent scene. Yeah, you're right about that, Dieter.
Totally
also,
forgot about that.
Yeah, I also want to give Batfleck a shout out because I remember when he was doing some research. In BVS, he was able to copy someone's phone with his phone, right, to get the information. That was a pretty cool tech thing. So all of them have been pretty tech savvy, but I feel like overall, with the array of things he had going on from, Pattinson just kind of takes the cake for me.
Yep.
That's just my thing.
I can't argue against that. I literally can't.
I can't wait for you to have a hot take on that, Dieter, after you see the movie. You always have them.
I'm going to have so many spicy takes.
The next one I want to go to, and Batman, I know he has that loner vibe to him, like he's always doing things by himself, but he does have some help around him. Maybe the most famous partner he's ever had is a guy by the name of Alfred, the butler that's raised him and kind of been his surrogate father, and also, depending on what iteration you're looking at, can kind of be a partner in his crimes to a certain extent, right? Now, Batman has had quite a few different Alfreds. I really like the Alfred in the Gotham series, actually. If you've seen the Gotham series, it's a really fun series.
Sean Pertwee.
Yeah, and the Schumacher and Burton movies, even though they switch Batman like 3 or 4 times, they still have the same Alfred in every single movie. Now, he has passed away by now. I can't remember his name right offhand, but they have the same Alfred in each one. He didn't do all that much until Batman and Robin, really, to be honest. Like, there wasn't that much going on with him. He was just kind of the British guy there, but it was interesting, right? So I wanted to kick it to Josh first and let me know which Alfred so far has been your favorite iteration in live action.
So I also really enjoyed the Alfred from Gotham. Full disclosure, I didn't finish the Gotham series. I think I still had like the last season to watch maybe. and I'll get around to it at some point, possibly. But I did really like that Alfred a lot. I thought that he embodied who Alfred is in a lot of ways. And I guess what's really neat about that show is it does give you sort of a peek into the scenario of Bruce growing up, right? Because we have the origin story that we all know about him going to the show, going to the theater with his parents getting killed. I'm angry. 10, 11 years later, I'm no longer angry. I'm now Batman, and I'm
angry still, and vengeance.
Yes, yeah. So we got like that show tried to do something really cool, which was give us a picture of like, okay, he doesn't immediately go and get his training and become Batman. There is a time period here of him growing up and becoming a young man before he does go off and end up ultimately becoming Batman when he does come back to Gotham. So that sort of, we really get to see Alfred as a father figure, as raising Bruce in that show. And I think it's very, very well done. And the other Alfred I'll mention is Alfred from the Nolan series. I do like him a lot because it gives us he very much loves that Bruce, and you feel the love and care from that Alfred. But EJ, you and I talked about this recently, actually, over a conversation, how one thing we really didn't like was that the Alfred in that series does actually leave Bruce. He's like, I can't watch you go down this path. And we both agreed that is not Alfred, that doesn't really fit. We get what they were trying to do, try to like pull at the heartstrings and be like, oh, he can't sit here and watch him, kill himself basically and put himself through all this pain and suffering and whatnot. But we just couldn't see a world where Alfred walks away from Batman, really. You know what I mean? So that's what I'll say about Alfred, and we can kick it to either you or Dieter, whoever else wants to chime in here.
Yeah, I'll let Dieter go next. The only thing I want to mention real quick is, if you didn't know, Josh, the guy in Gotham is a guy named Sean Pertwee, and his father is actually the third or fourth Doctor in Doctor Who, John British third.
Okay.
So just kind of a nerd reference throw out there to some of you guys out there who watch Doctor Who too. They look so similar.
They look
incredibly similar. Yeah, but I agree with a lot of what you said, Josh. Really liked Sean Pertwee in Gotham, and enjoyed the Nolan as well. Let me go ahead and kick it to Dieter real quick.
So it's funny that you guys say that you can't imagine a world in which Alfred would leave Batman, would leave Bruce, because that's definitely happened before.
I know.
Alfred has left Bruce's employ in recent comic history at least twice that I can think of. Both times in situations where Bruce is doing everything he can to alienate his family, and even on occasions where Alfred has not fully left Bruce's employ, there have been times that he will kind of like bow out of the Batcave and go help other members of the family. Like, there was an extended period of time where just kind of Bruce was trying to do everything by himself. He'd been accused of murder, and was like not giving anyone any reason to believe that he hadn't committed murder. And Alfred was like, you know what? Tim Drake, your Robin, basically your kid, is going through some shit because of this. You're not helping him, so I'm going to. And basically moves in with Tim Drake and like helps him out at this boarding school he's at. So Alfred is willing to leave if he believes it's the right thing to do. But the important thing for Alfred is that he always comes back. No matter what happens, when Bruce finally does reach the point of rock bottom and he starts trying to crawl his way up and he realizes he needs help, the first person to forgive him and the first person to come back and aid him is always going to be Alfred. That said, in terms of favorite Alfreds, this is going to be unexpected, but I've got to give it to Jeremy Irons. For the longest time, it was Kane. William, I believe it's William Hogue? Michael Gough from the Schumacher films, I always found very stuffy and very, like, he was the British butler, and that's fine. But one of the things that I love about Alfred is his sass. That man takes no shit from anyone. That man in the comics pulled out a shotgun and aimed it right in between Bane's eyes when he thought Bane was going to get into the Batcave. And he also is the only person in the comics who can not take Bruce's shit and get away with it. He's always backsassing Bruce. He's always pointing out the absurdity of Bruce's various plans and Bruce's egotism. And Bruce just kind of doesn't have anything to say back because Alfred's like his father and Alfred's almost always right. And Michael Caine had a little bit of that, and he had the love for Bruce, which I think is really true to the character. But Jeremy Irons is the first time that we get someone who is just truly British backsass all the time. And it's so good.
I think what encompasses that relationship is when Batman brings the Justice League into the Batcave in the Snyder Cut. He goes, "Here's Alfred, I work for him." You know? And I got to piggyback on Dieter there. Yeah, I mean, I love all the Alfreds. Wasn't as big a fan as Michael Gough. I didn't feel like he added as much. I know they tried to do more in Batman and Robin with him, you know, having the sickness and everything like that.
That's right. And Alicia Silverstone was his daughter. It wasn't Barbara Gordon. It was Lady Alfred. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, I can't either. And I tried to forget that movie as much as I possibly can. But yeah, I saw what they were trying to do there. But before, he just basically, only thing I really knew that he did is he brought one of Batman's girlfriends in Michael Keaton's movie to the Batcave, which I thought was pretty dumb for an Alfred, you know? So not necessarily his performance I had a problem with, but kind of how he was utilized. I felt like he could have been brought into something more. I love Michael Caine all the way to the end. I think Josh already mentioned that, where I get what you're saying, Dieter, where, you know, Alfred does leave at time, but I feel like when Bruce is really at his lowest, I feel like this is not the worst he's ever been off, right? I feel that Michael Caine's Alfred should have still stuck with Bruce and helped him out to the very end. And that's what Jeremy Irons does. What Batfleck and Jeremy Irons had going on, they sounded like an old married couple, to be honest. That's how they gripe together. You know, he was just
they're so good.
Yeah, you know, and Batman's like, "I don't deserve you, Alfred." He's like, "No, sir, you don't." And one of my favorite just grounded moments between them is in BVS, where Batman is sitting in the ruined Wayne mansion, and he's talking about the history of his family, and Alfred's like, "Well, from what I understood, I thought that your family got their wealth through real estate, through railroads." And then Batman looks at Alfred, he goes, "No, the early ones went out and were pelt hunters." And he looks at him and goes, "Yeah, we were hunters." That's when he brings his resolve to go fight Superman. And as he leaves, Alfred shakes his head and goes, "So falls the House of Wayne." So he knows that Batman is going to, fighting Superman will lead to Batman's demise, but he's still there with Batman, trying to do whatever he can to give him the right advice to do the right thing. You know, and that's what I really liked about Jeremy Irons' version. I just think that they really had a good chemistry going on. And that's the most faithful Alfred interpretation I've seen on screen, in my opinion, especially that he was involved with the tech as well. If you see in BVS where he's helping with the helmet, you know, getting the kinks out of the helmet to make sure that's sounding right. I just thought that relationship just made a lot of sense. And that's kind of who I felt has been the best Alfred to date. By the way, guys, if you didn't know, I am taking a tally. So I will tally this up at the end of it. So.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Oh, okay. A little tally. That's fine.
How was Andy Serkis, by the way? Was he
good?
Oh,
so,
we gotta hop into that. Go for it, Josh.
So I really liked Andy Serkis. I like Andy Serkis in general. I think him playing Ulysses Claw, Ulysses, something like that. That's how you say that name. Mr. Claw, Sir Claw. He's super entertaining. He's kind of a minor character in the Marvel universe for sure, but plays some major parts in different things, but super entertaining, funny guy.
He also directed Venom too.
Yes, and anytime I've seen him on screen, he is just someone that's really enjoyable to watch for me. I think he makes a great Alfred. I really have no complaints about this Alfred. We'll get to this later in this stream. There are people from the movie I have complaints about. There's an individual in particular that I have a big beef with. But yeah, we'll get to that later. Andy Serkis, honestly, I didn't want to say he was my favorite because I was worried that when we got to the end of this, all of my favorites would have just been from the Batman movie, which would have made me look bad. So I have to diversify. But I was a big fan. EJ, what did you think of Andy Serkis? Did you have any complaints about his outfit?
So I have no complaints about his performance. I think he did a good job. There were certain aspects of the relationship between Alfred and Bruce I didn't necessarily like as much. I went into that in my review a little bit. I'll go deeper into that. But basically, there was a lot of tension. There's always tension in that relationship. But I felt that it was some old tension they should have already gotten over. Like there's one scene where Bruce Wayne says to him that you're not my dad. And I'm like, you've been Batman for 2 years now. I think at this point we should have gotten over the whole you're not my dad thing. But, he's emo detective Batman. So he goes to fight.
On that. I remember we had that conversation. We're both kind of like, this is a little annoying. Like, you're a little old for like, you're not my dad. I'm an independent teenager, and I'm gonna slam my door and do my own thing. Like, it was a little cheesy, I guess.
Over the top.
Maybe it was like the delivery of it or whatever. But it again, I had the same exact thought. So when you said it to me when we were on the phone talking about it, I was like, okay, so I'm not the only one that felt like this was a little much and a little silly.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I mean, that's why he's supposed to be emo detective Batman that goes and tells Alfred he's not his dad, and then goes in his bat car looking for crimes with playing Chemical Romance in the background. So that's kind of how I see this Batman. But Alfred, I've always loved every iteration of him, and I think he gives a lot of tension to the stories that is definitely needed for a Batman story. So really like that. The next part that we're going to talk about is the Rogue Gallery. Now, I think Batman has always had this issue in live action where the villains have kind of outshone the actual Batman actor in multiple ways. The only way it didn't happen, spoiler alert, was with Batfleck because his counter ego was Jared Leto, and we all know how we feel about him.
Sucks.
But everyone else, I feel like their villains outshine the actual Batman actor. So I definitely want to get into the Rogue Gallery of Batman. In my opinion, I think Batman has the best Rogue Gallery of any superhero comic book hero ever. The only one that's even close is Spider-Man.
I gotta interrupt you really quick. Sorry, I gotta interrupt you. We're gonna have a guest on. I'm working on getting us a little bit of a guest. A guest.
Oh, nice.
Live on
I
the
got
show.
a guest.
So I am going to dip out for a second. The stream will still be up, and you guys are good. You can continue to talk. I can hear you and everything, but you will not see or hear me for 2 minutes or so. But I will be back. I promise.
Okay.
All right. Carry on. I just wanted to let you know so you didn't freak out.
Well,
my God, where's Josh?
All right. We'll bring him in the best way possible, and we'll just continue with the conversation about the villains. So, we're just going to roll the punches on this one. So,
all right.
Tell me a little bit about who you feel like has the best Rogue Gallery. Just give us a little bit of an introduction to Batman's Rogue Gallery as well.
So you kind of summed it up. I would say, there's no greater Rogues Gallery than Batman's in the history of comics. There are other great Rogues Galleries. Spider-Man has a very diverse Rogues Gallery. I am very, very fond of the Flash's Rogues Gallery, which is a bit of a dark horse, but I freaking love the Rogues. But
Leonard Stark's fun.
There's no one who has so many iconic villains. Like, even like the D-list and Z-list villains, like, people know who Clayface is. There are some people who are like, oh yeah, Condiment King, Music Meister, I know who those guys are. Like, no other hero has that level of
it's a deep roster.
Love. Like,
yeah.
But Batman does. And one of the things that I think makes a great villain roster for Batman is when Batman gets a chance to show his compassion for the villains. And this was one of the things that the animated series did so well. The moments where Batman, despite how insane his villains are, despite the terrible things that they would try to do, if he had the chance to save them, and if he had the chance to help them, he always would. There's a really iconic scene, at least for me, in Batman the Animated Series with Baby Doll, who is this like serial killer who had this medical condition that made her look really, really young. And so as a result, everyone treats her like a kid, and she'd never been treated as an adult her whole life.
Yep.
And there's the scene where he finally manages to get her alone and calm her down, that all of a sudden, all the trauma that made her the way that she is starts to bubble up to the surface. And there's just this beautiful shot looking down from above with all the shadows. Everything in the background is in darkness. And it's just this, what appears to be, because of her medical condition, a little girl just clinging to Batman's leg, sobbing. And he just puts out one hand and gives her what little comfort a crazy man in a bat costume can give.
And real quick, I want to sit there for a second. I was thinking about the other scene. I think it's in either the Justice League Unlimited or Justice League, the anime series, where he talks to part of the
Ace.
That's what I was going to talk
Ace.
about.
Oh, at the very end of Justice League Unlimited. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. You know what I'm talking about.
The correct answer is who has the best villains. It's the animated series, but we're not allowed. That's not the answer we're allowed to give.
That needs its own
that one
total
would
episode
win every time.
Yeah.
So, do we have a guest who's here to talk about this?
I'm back. No, we don't have our guest yet, but we will have our guest shortly.
Okay.
So,
in that case, I've got spicy hot takes galore.
Okay, let's go.
Now, if you want to talk about who has the best villains overall, obviously Heath Ledger puts a lot into the Bale column. Obviously.
Yeah.
But in terms of sheer diversity of villains and everything and sheer charisma of the villains, it's the Burton Schumacher films that combined, because we assume that those exist in the same universe.
Yes, they do. Technically, now in the Flash movie, apparently they're going to branch them off and have like Keaton being his own thing, but that's kind of a retro.
That
actively
only matters if that movie actually comes out, which we all
so
agree
for now,
it's not going to.
We should only be waiting for like a decade at this point. So
now, to be fair, I'm not saying that each of these villains are the best representation of their comic selves. Obviously, Jim Carrey is not a great representation of the Riddler. Obviously, Arnold Schwarzenegger being cast as Mr. Freeze.
Yes, thank you.
In terms of the diversity of performances and the sheer fun that they bring to the roles, and there's not a single actor in that batch between Nicholson, Pfeiffer, Danny DeVito, Tommy Lee Jones, Jim Carrey, Uma Thurman, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Every single one of them was clearly giving that role everything they could and clearly having a blast doing it. And at the end of the day, no, they weren't comics accurate, but they were fun. And that's all I can ask for.
So I'm going to answer you on that. So what I will say, I just recently watched all those films, so I have all of them very, early in my mind at this point. I will give you some credit. There are some fun moments with those villains, even though they may not be as iconic as the Rogue Gallery that Nolan put together. There are some fun moments. Jack Nicholson, he didn't make a lot of sense sometimes, but it was kind of fun when he looked at Keaton and said, "Never touch another man's rhubarb." That was kind of funny. My favorite Jack Nicholson line though is when the very final scene where they're hanging from the roof and he's just stamping on things on the roof to kind of make Batman fall. It's like, they don't make them like they used to. And he's just he's just going crazy, right? Jack Nicholson was a lot of fun as the Joker, and he was pretty upset actually when they cast Heath Ledger. He really wanted to reprise that role, but I'm glad they went in a different direction, obviously, because I don't think that his Joker would have fit in that universe. But he was very fun. Jim Carrey as the Riddler just does Jim Carrey. He's his own person there. Apparently him and Tommy Lee Jones didn't get along on set. Tommy Lee Jones as, Two-Face. I think Tommy Lee Jones was a little bit too restrained in his role, actually. I didn't see him actually finally letting go as much. Yeah, I just didn't see. I feel like he was restrained, and I feel like he didn't.
This is Tommy Lee Jones we're talking about. Anything above monotone he's gone crazy.
Yeah. So
all right, guys, we have our guest.
Bring one on.
A guest.
So let's go ahead and bring in my friend here, Brian.
The beard.
Greetings and salutations.
Hello
Greetings
there.
and
How you doing, my
salutations
friend?
To you, fellow beard.
How are we doing? I'm talking about the Batman, I see.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're talking about the Batman, and right now we're talking about the villains. So
Yeah,
we'll just
rogue
catch you up a
galleries.
little bit. So we're trying to stay with live action, and we're talking about all the live action. Now, obviously, the newest Batman movie is freshest in our minds, except for Dieter hasn't seen it yet, but it's okay. We're free to spoil away.
Go crazy. It's fine by me.
And then EJ actually took the time to watch every single Batman live action that's been released within, what would you say, like 2 weeks or so that it took you to do all that?
Yeah, it took me about 2 weeks.
Before the Batman came out. So he was putting in the prep work.
Yeah.
A lot of prep work.
Yeah.
I didn't watch Adam West's movie, though, so I feel like I kind of failed. But,
I've only seen clips from that. I saw the exploding shark.
Yeah, when he goes around with the bomb, like running around with the bomb, and he's like, can't put it out. Sometimes you can't just can't get rid of a bomb.
Yeah. So
this is genuinely true. When I was in high school, our drama teacher, shout out to Miss Hobson, if she ever watches this, would have yearly showings of the Adam West Batman movie in her drama room. And I was not a drama student. I was just there because they knew I liked Batman. And like every year, it was right after school, there'd be one day where it'd be like Batman Day, and we'd all go watch Batman and watch and make fun of, like, some days you can't get rid of the bomb.
Incredible.
It's so good.
That is so incredible.
So tell us about some of your favorite live action villains, whether it be from this most recent movie or some of the older ones. Who do you think some of the best ones are and why?
Yeah.
I definitely have the most recent movie in mind, and I have to say Colin Farrell's Penguin was phenomenal. I love that he was able to give a performance beyond that prosthetic that just it drove. Honestly, I think he outdid Danny DeVito.
Of course. Okay. Yeah. Danny DeVito is a really odd choice it's not an odd choice from a looks perspective, but where they went with that character in Batman Returns was just odd.
It was
odd. That he was like a
lot things about that.
Man,
yeah.
I remember when I was
I'm going to say this before you get into that, Dieter. My hot take: Batman Forever is the worst Batman. Like, I think that not Batman Forever. Sorry, Batman Returns is the worst Batman. It's worse than Batman and Robin. I get less joy, and it's harder for me to get through Batman Returns than Batman and Robin. I absolutely hated that film. There was nothing I liked about it besides Catwoman. That's about it.
I can find things to like about almost all of the Batman movies, but some of the older ones were, when they were first starting to do the comic book movies, they were super campy and weird.
Yeah.
See, that's a feature, not a bug to me.
and that's just down to preference. It all comes down to preference at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Dieter? Sorry.
I was just gonna say how freaking weird it was that they like decided to make Penguin, like, he wasn't just like a portly dude who was really good at the business of crime. He was a weird sewer mutant who, and I remember when I was a kid,
true.
I went to my local video store, and this is before I'd seen any of the Batman movies because I was an easily scared child and I shouldn't have been watching them. And I remember they were playing Batman Returns up on the TV screen, and it was right at that part where Penguin just randomly decides to bite off the dude's nose.
Oh, gross.
That scene lived in my head for about 5 years and just kept me awake at night. It was so grotesque, it was so terrifying, but it's really iconic.
Yeah.
So
6 of one, half a dozen of the other, I guess.
Yeah,
that's quite a way to go into it.
Yeah. See, and it's no surprise. I mean, as far as my take is, I think that Nolan still holds the prize as the best rogue gallery on screen. First of all, I have the most time for
grounds? On what grounds?
I'll teach you. Give me a second.
Two-Face?
Now, so Two-Face is great. So Harvey Dent was played wonderfully. It's not just that. Ra's al Ghul. I keep on saying Ross, but it's Ra's al Ghul because they messed it up.
Qui-Gon?
In the movie. Qui-Gon Bane did a great job. Besides, they neutered the Bane story a little bit at the end, but Tom Hardy's performance as Bane, iconic. right? You have too many iconic
Go ahead,
villains
EJ.
in that gallery than any
Hit us with the
other.
impersonation. Go ahead.
Oh, you know, I can't even remember.
The darkness is your ally.
But you merely
Oh,
invented
yes.
the dark.
That famous
I was
Bane
born in
line.
Oh.
That's all I can remember right offhand.
Like you can say what you
I'm-
want about the movie. Like if you hate the Christopher Nolan ones, you can say what you want about them, but you can't say they're not iconic.
It's true.
Exactly.
Because that voice, when everyone does the Bane voice, there's been so many people who have voiced Bane, but that's the one people go to.
Yep.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
And he had the most time, but that is the best rogue gallery that Batman has had so far. There hasn't been a miss with him. The only one that's a little underserved is Scarecrow. I feel like he's acted well by Cillian Murphy, but I feel like he's a little underserved. I feel like they could have done more with that design.
Is it Cillian or Killian?
Killian.
Cillian.
It's Killian.
It's Cillian or Killian. I've heard people say Cillian, so I don't know. It's a weird British name. Yeah.
Josh, call him up and ask him. We'll get another guest on.
Yeah.
I will.
We'll get another.
Hold on, guys. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I hate to sound like a Nolan bro, but I think they all did a great job. That's the only one. I feel like the design could have been more with the Scarecrow because all he does is put on the mask. I get it, they're going for the grounded take, but there's been so many iconic Scarecrow designs. If you look in the past, like whether it's Arkham Knight or some of the animated series, I feel like they could have done more with it. So that's the only one that's a little underserved. I'm not going to nick the whole group for it. I think overall it's just great. What do you have to say, Josh?
So I heard Dieter earlier while I was working on trying to get our guest in here say something about Mr. Freeze played by Arnold, and I really like that portrayal. And I'm biased, so to give you guys a little bit of background for me, I haven't seen all these Batman movies, so a lot of them, especially the older ones, I've only seen clips of. Some of them I've maybe not even seen hardly any clips of. I've definitely seen Nolan, and I've seen everything that Batfleck has been in, and obviously seen this newest Batman. So I have those to reference, but I haven't seen the very, very old ones. I did see the George Clooney Batman, however, though. And I do appreciate...
That's all you need, really.
Exactly. I do appreciate the villains in that because, and I'm going to give them my vote, I guess, for this. I don't know what we're calling that one. I don't know who directed those or whatever, but to me,
Schumacher.
they're the George Clooney Batman. I don't know. Schumacher? Sure.
Yep.
So I think that Mr. Freeze has done awesome. He's got his gun. He's got his blue skin. Super cool. Bane has actual, like, venom stuff. I forget the name of the actual juices that's
in
Yeah.
that movie. I totally forgot about it.
Yeah, but that's a
Because
really,
he's silent, mostly.
that's kind of
I'm drawing a
yeah,
blank
he
on
just
that.
says that famous line, you know. So he has the juices. The
What was that
venom
line
in it.
again?
Yeah. Which is what Bane is in the comics, right? He's like this skinny, scrawny little thing, and then he pumps himself up with the juice or whatever. And they opted to not have that be a part of the Nolan series at all, which is fine. I just, as a kid, I loved that movie, and I get that it's kind of a goofy movie, and we'll talk about the nipples later. If you know, you know. But other than that,
Yeah, we
it's
will.
it's a goofy movie, but I do appreciate the villains. Poison Ivy as well, I think is really cool. The colors in that movie, each villain has like a color that is so associated with them. And I think that's something that gets lost in modern superhero movies sometimes, especially on the DC side, especially with Zack Snyder and those, just DC in general. They want everything dark and dreary, no colors, no fun, no joy. Everything needs to be dark and in slow motion. And I know that makes EJ really, really horny. But other than EJ, I think there are some of us who like a little bit of color or a little bit of joy. So I
go
enjoy
watch
those
the reruns
things.
of Adam West if you want that. Now, yeah, I am not ashamed at all to say that I want my Batman dark. I want him dreary. I do not care to see him dance. I do not care to see the Bat card or whatever, the Bat credit card. I don't care for any of that. I want him miserable. I want him growling. I want him beating the crap out of people. So with that in mind, I want to go to the next segment real quick. And we got to talk about this. There's so many different iterations of this, but we got to talk about what makes the Bat suit. What is your favorite suit? in Batman history. I want to go to the beard real quick to start off with our guest. What do you think is the best suit in live action, of course? Live action. What is the best suit? And you got to give me a good reason for it.
Come back to me. I gotta
Come
think
back.
I love
We're throwing
Batman
you in the
suits for
fire.
a lot of different reasons.
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
deciding between two.
We're throwing
Okay,
you into
we'll
the
get
fire
back
a
to
little
you.
bit because
Let me
we
go with Josh,
actually
then.
knew what was going to be asked here, and you didn't.
Yeah.
So we'll give you a minute. I'll jump in here. So I told you we would talk about the nipples, and here we are. It is time, ladies and
Oh,
gentlemen.
no.
It is time to discuss
Free the
nipples. So, yeah. For those of you who don't know, the reason why we're making jokes about nipples is because in the
Because
George
we like
Clooney,
nipples.
yes, in
Oh,
the
I
George
mean-
Clooney Batman movie, there was just the one with George Clooney, right?
No, there's
Isn't that multiple?
there's another
There was
one
only
that has
one.
nipples. No, I mean, so there's one George Clooney, but Val Kilmer also had nipples in his suit in Batman Forever. We just didn't
Okay.
pay attention to it because Jim Carrey was so distracting. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's probably part of it, but they also have a specific scene where like Robin, Batman, and Batgirl are all suiting up, and they give you a nice little like shakook as they like
Shot of their
turn
ass,
with
yep.
Yeah, like hey, look at my butt and my nipples and everything. So, yes, those suits I need to mention off the top because they look really cool. Honestly, they do look really, really cool. Other than the nipples, the nipples are just weird. Now, when I first saw the movies when I was a kid, I didn't think much of it. I was just a kid, right? But now as a man seeing it, I can see how that looks very goofy, silly, and not necessary. So that aside, I will say my favorite. Now, I have to be strict here. I have to stick with live action because there are so many in the comics and so many in the
In Arkham
games, animated,
Yep.
that I absolutely love. But I will refrain from talking about them now. It's hard, but I'll do it for the content. So I think my favorite Batman suit live action is gonna have to go to. Can I cheat a little bit and say a Robin suit?
Or what?
A Robin
Yes,
suit.
because I'm interested where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Robin suit from the George Clooney Batman, minus the nipples. I absolutely love that suit. I don't know if you guys recall or remember what that suit looks like, but the
I
basic.
do.
Yes, I really, really like that suit. I also really, really like Robin. I really want us to have another live action Robin.
Yeah.
I digress.
Okay.
I'm going to pick that one as my favorite because, again, minus the nipples. I love it. I think those suits are really, really cool in general.
I think the nipples is why he likes it, honestly, knowing Josh.
I mean, let's be clear here. The nipples and the ass cheeks are why Joel Schumacher put them in because that man's gay as hell.
Well, Schumacher said the reason why he did it is because he wanted them to look like mythic Greek gods, which sounds like a Zack Snyder thing to say, really. But apparently that's what Schumacher was going for. Because after watching that movie, I was like, what went wrong? I need to see interviews. I need to see an explanation for why this movie happened the way it did. So I went to see a lot of interviews with Joel Schumacher on the making of Batman and Robin. And that's one thing he mentioned. They want them to look like Greek Roman gods. And that's why he put the nipples and the armor there just to kind of make it look like that. So, yeah. What I'll say real quick, my favorite Batman suit, I've gone back and forth on this, but I gotta go with the reiteration of the remake of The Dark Knight in Nolan's film. I like the armored look with it. It's not the most comic book accurate. Like Affleck's is very comic book accurate. Pattinson's, I like the wear down look. But overall, I do like the futuristic tech kind of armored look that the Dark Knight trilogy has. Not the one in Batman Begins, but the one they use in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. That's my favorite one. I like the long ears and look very menacing, and just the whole overall look is something that I just feel like that's Batman when I look at it. So that's my favorite suit in live action. Let me go to Dieter real quick, and we'll go back to our guest, the beard, right afterwards when he gives us to wrap it up. So Dieter, what's your favorite live action Batman suit?
You ready for a spicy hot take?
That's all you have lately, Dieter.
There has
Go
never
ahead.
been a truly excellent bat suit over the history of Batman in live action. It's my hot
Josh,
take.
could you go ahead and kick him off the stream?
Yeah, sure. Let me just go ahead and just go here, and there.
I didn't know you actually could do that.
I was just thrown into a liminal space outside of reality.
You were thrown into
The Phantom Zone.
The Phantom Zone. Yep. Listen,
Oh, man.
I'm the producer around here. Okay, I got the power. You see this? Let me show you something. This right here, this is a mouse, right? This controls all.
Yeah, I've heard of those before. Thanks. Oh man, I had a point. I
Okay,
remember my
make
point.
it quick too.
So here's the thing.
Explain yourself.
This is not to say that there have not been good batsuits. I think every batsuit brings us something a little different to the table, but none of them have been what I want. And I think part of that is because I'm not convinced you can make a good batsuit in real life. Because if you go back and look, obviously Adam West was very silly. It had like floppy ears almost, and like it was clearly made on a shoestring, and that's fine. And
Real quick, it looks like we lost our guest, by the way.
It's okay. It's okay. He'll get back in. He
All right.
probably he has internet issues sometimes. So you
Okay.
go ahead and keep going, Dieter. I'll
Sorry
work
about
on
that.
getting him back in.
Prayers up in the chat for the beard. He's got the internet issues. There we go. So moving on to the movie Batman. Keaton looks great when he's not moving. The problem was Keaton, quite literally, could not move his head from side to side, which meant everything he had to do was this big flourish, which looks interesting and campy, and it's very electric, but it doesn't sell me on the fact that this is like cutting edge costuming here. The Schumacher films, so many jokes are made about the bat nipples and the bat ass, and you know what? At the end of the day, I can't get past them. There's a cool.
I know it's not where I thought you were going with that sentence. I thought that sentence was going to end with, and at the end of the day, I love those nipples. I thought that's where you were going, but it's the way you set it up.
My opinions in my personal life and my opinions on the show aren't always the same thing. And what I get up to in the sanctity of my own bat cave is my own business.
The Dark Knight Rises. Talk about it.
I know we're live, but bring it down.
But when it comes to me watching Batman, for reasons other than my own gratification, the designs, it's a little too off-putting for me.
Okay.
Nolan's original design did not work for me at all because I got what he was going for. He was trying to make a Batman costume in real life, but by his own admission in the second movie, you couldn't really move in it.
Yep.
I think The Dark Knight has come the closest to what I want out of a Bat costume. And I think Batfleck's costume is certainly the most comic accurate. What I would like to see is if there's a way to combine those two, get that comic book accurate coloring, get that big bat emblem, but get that almost like plate armor look that Batman, The Dark Knight had. Basically what I want is a live action version of like the Arkham City suit. That's about where I'm at. And I don't know if that's actually physically possible in real life, but I would like to see people keep trying.
And what I'll say, I'll also give Batfleck a shout out. Like, he had the most variety of suits because he not only, of course, had his general like Dark Knight Returns suit, but he also had the tactical suit that he used during Justice League versus both the Snyder Cut and the Joss Whedon version. He also had, of course, his Dark Knight Returns Superman. I forget the actual name of this suit, but basically the one where he goes fight Superman in it. That one's pretty iconic as well. Basically pulled right from the comics. Both look pretty great as well. I just think, even though he had variety, I still like Nolan's the best. But think we finally brought back our friend, the Beard. What is
Yes.
your favorite Batsuit? I hope you had a lot of time to think of it. Obviously, in the Phantom
yes.
Zone for a second, so I know you're ready
So,
for it.
I had to pick between two, and I really love the new suit and what they did with it, but
Yeah.
I'm not going with the new suit. I'm going with Michael Keaton's 89 Batman suit.
I like it.
I love the iconic symbol. I love the tall ears.
Mm.
I just think it's a very iconic suit. But I will agree that I am not yet satisfied with any of the bat suits either. Because what I want to see in live action is them do a good, colorful suit. The blue and gray.
Mm.
I think that'd be cool to see in live action.
The Adams era suit. Yes. God, that would be amazing to see in live action.
Like, I think they could make it work.
Yeah. You just don't say too much about color. You'll upset EJ, but maybe you can get something like a muted blue, and kind of like in the animated series, right? Or even Adam West. It's not like it's bright blue and this pretty rainbows and butterflies. It's just has a little bit of color, has a little bit of Batman in it.
Yeah, I like where you're going, but no, I think that's good.
I have a compromise. The black and gray suit, but if you've seen even in the trailers, they had this kind of red illumination around the new Batman suit. If they did that with blue, but had the black and gray, I think that'd be a good compromise.
Well, we'd have to see it.
I think you're onto. I want to see that. I think you're onto something there.
I don't know. I think Batman should just. Honestly, I just wish they would go with those movies and put them in gray and white. Back in the old days. So I think that they would look best with that aesthetic. To be honest,
that would look cool.
That actually would be super dope. Like a Batman movie, like a modern Batman movie filmed in monochrome. Like Justice is Gray, but a better movie, and that'd be amazing.
There is no better movie, but that's okay. Want to go back to the next title that we have here. Now, we've talked a lot about what Batman has in store, right? His tech, his Alfred, his villains. What Batman can brawl it out there the best? Which Batman do you feel like has the best fight, is the best fighter or best fighting style? And I definitely want to lead this, and I'll let you guys come up after me. Before in Adam West and Keaton, Kilmer, and Clooney, Batman didn't fight a ton. Like his bat style was very weird. He just kind of floated around, and you didn't really get to see a lot of it. In the Nolan series, we got a lot of shaky cam for fight scenes, if you remember. Like if you look at the Batman Begins, we don't really get to see a lot of what's actually going.
Those fight scenes are unwatchable.
I wasn't going to say that because I'm a Nolan bro, but yes.
A lot of movies have that same crime. The jump.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing.
As a Marvel fan, like there were times with Winter Soldier where sometimes the shaky cam was really effective, and there were other times like the initial scene on the Lemurian Star where I was like, this is real hard to watch, guys. Like I get it, you're trying to make
Widow was even worse.
Stop.
Yeah, Black Widow was even worse.
Black Widow.
Her shaky cam was terrible. So that's the fight scenes that were tough. They went with a traditional kung fu style for the first two Nolan movies. Then in the Dark Knight Rises, they switched to a brawler street fight style. They changed up kind of what they're doing. And to be honest, even though the dialogue is fun, I don't think they really hit it on the head. I think it was still kind of a little too slow. Christian Bale insisted on doing his own stunts, which I think kind of hurt it as well. So I don't know if it ages nearly as well as it could. I gotta say, when it comes to best fight styles, it's really down, in my opinion, between Robert Pattinson, or Battinson as we're calling him, and Batfleck. I think those are the two we really got to go with. And I don't know if you get better than peak Batman than when you're talking about the Batman v Superman warehouse scene. Like you can say whatever you want about the controversy of the whole film, but when you're talking about that scene where he's out there saving Martha, that is the best I've seen Batman fight forever. And I think that's peak Batman in my opinion. Now, Pattinson got really close. I think a lot of his scenes, especially where they use lights to kind of make an effect that make him seem like he's had bullets like pelting off of him and all that, that was really cool. But it still wasn't nearly as fast and efficient as how Batfleck took down people in the warehouse scene. So far, when it comes to the best fighter, in my opinion, best brawler, if you put all of them in a room and say, let's go, the Super Smash Bros. Brawl time, I think Batfleck takes the cake. I really do. I want to go to our guest real quick, see if you're ready. Are you ready for this, the beard? Or?
Oh yes.
All right, go for it, man.
Right off the bat, Pattinson. I'm jumping on the Pattinson bandwagon. When I watched that movie, it felt like I was back into the Arkham game, fighting there.
Yes.
Like I thought he was the perfect level of brutal. I just love the fight scenes, and I love how they did different choreography for each fight scene. Like sometimes you saw them, sometimes it was the flashing gun, which that movie is just amazing, iconic. So much iconic stuff from it.
Love it. All right, Josh, what do you think, my guy?
So I have to agree with my friend here from The Bear and the Beard, because I think I'll say two things. So Robert Pattinson's fighting style was very fun to watch, and the specific scene, you did see like the gun flare flashes in a couple scenes, but there's one scene where he's in like a hallway, and all you see, it's like you have a camera view and you have like the hallway. I'm pretty sure it's in one of the trailers too. And you only thing that lights the scene at all is the muzzle flare.
And that's real.
So well. And it's so
they did that practically?
Freaking cool. Like,
according to the interview.
Yes. So it's like very, very, very cool. Very much reminds me of the mechanics of the games. I love that scene. The other thing I will mention is Christian Bale's Batman. I actually went down a bit of a internet rabbit hole / life rabbit hole, I guess, when those first movies came out. And that's when I discovered Krav Maga, because that's what that fighting style is based off of, which is specific for like practical fighting people with weapons. Like they have guns, they have knives, etc. Not just like, grappling or wrestling or traditional kung fu. It's a little more specified, and also focused on how does one person fight against 10 people, which is like what Batman's known for, right? He's in the crowd of like thugs, and he's single-handedly somehow paying attention to all 10 individuals, or to whatever individuals are most important, so that he can fight them all off and not, himself get hurt. So my official vote, I guess, will go to Pattinson, but definite honorable mention for Christian Bale, because even though the scenes are difficult to watch, the idea behind them did inspire a lot of research for me, and I spent quite a bit of time like looking into that fighting and that fighting style, because I was curious about it. Not because I wanted to become Batman or anything. That would be absolutely ridiculous. Not to mention I do not have the wealth in order to make that happen. So that's my final take. That's my vote.
Dieter, what do you say, my guy?
So realistically, this is a conversation between Bale, Batfleck, and Pattinson.
Yeah.
Realistically. Because obviously the fight choreography back in the Adam West ones was very 1960s TV. It was very Captain Kirk with like the double axe handles to the back of the head and that sort of thing. But you know what? I do love that onomatopoeia that would go with the biff and the pow. It's just fun.
Yeah.
And obviously the fight scenes in the 90s movies were just kind of silly, but there wasn't a lot of like really engaging fight choreography in the way I would want. And I can't talk about Pattinson because I haven't seen him. So it's good to know that the fight choreography in that was really good. I look forward to watching it. But that leaves me between Bale and Batfleck. And I'm torn because on one hand, like Josh said, Bale looks like the one who would be like the best at fighting in real life, if that makes sense. Like he's always got like his hands up, like he's protecting his face. He's doing legitimate moves that would hurt a person. But the problem is sometimes what works the best for actual self-defense isn't what looks the flashiest. Like if you want a self-defense weapon in your home, what are you going to go with? Are you going to go with a katana? No, you don't know how to use a katana. Nobody knows how to use a katana. No, you're going to go with a club, because a club you can beat people with. It's not pretty, but it works. Touche.
Practicality. Yep.
Exactly.
How stupid would you feel if I pulled a katana from out under this desk right now? Oh, here we go. He's on the move.
Right. So
Now that we have visuals.
Y'all are about to have a sword battle. I need some popcorn.
I am
We don't
so
call
glad
ourselves
that this
the
just
Knights of
happened
the
to be in a
Nerd
pile
Table
right by my desk. Oh my god. So let me get that out of here. So that's Bale. Bale is efficient. Bale is good at what he does, but he's not always the most fun to watch. Batfleck, on the other hand, I think also fights like the Arkham games, because if you look at the Arkham games in the way that he fights in those, he doesn't spend time on one opponent unless you're using the beatdown move. Outside of that, if you really want to be very effective at the game, you strike and then move to another guy across the room. And I think Batfleck did a really great job of reflecting that. It's also worth noting that Batfleck is, to my knowledge, the only Batman who uses professional wrestling in his fight choreography. You will see in that warehouse fight, he pulls out a Uranagi and a running bulldog, which are both classic professional wrestling moves. And I am famously a huge fan of professional wrestling, so anytime you use that in your fight choreography, that's bonus points for me. So I'm going to give it to Batfleck for being more fun to watch, but Bale in terms of who would actually kick ass in real life.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's very fair.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them were a lot of fun, and even though it was badly choreographed, it was kind of slow. I did like the street scene between Bane and Bale, right at the end of The Dark Knight Rises. It was very epic, but at the same time, when you go back and watch it, you don't have the suspense going in your head because you're watching it for the first couple of times or whatever. It does feel like when you actually look, it's like, this is kind of slow. You know, I don't know if the punches are actually landing. They actually look like they're making huge impact. Whereas the reason why I went with Batfleck, I almost went with Pattinson, is because I kept on looking at the film back and forth. Like, I had the fight scenes of the Batman, I had the warehouse scene, and to me, his style was just faster. You know, it just seemed like, and that's partly because he's in a leather suit rather than a tactical suit, right? Where he's just going down and he's just moving really quickly. So the speed and ferocity of it. And when you see him punch, you really feel like he hits him hard. Like, it's like, wow, that looks like he broke his cranium right there. I'm surprised there's not brains on the floor. Like, right, you know, right. So that's why I had to go with Batfleck over Pattinson, mainly because there was a speed element to it that Pattinson has decent speed, not Bale level, but I didn't feel like he was nearly as quick as far as his movements as Batfleck was. So that's kind of why I went with him. The next item we have up here is we got to talk about the broader Gotham City, right? So the guy that helps him from the inside a little bit is a guy by the name of James Gordon, right? Who's the commissioner at times. Sometimes he's just a lieutenant. Depends on what time and what iteration you go with him. But James Gordon is kind of the legal side for Batman. He helps him any way he can to assist with the police and to get things done. Now, we've had multiple versions of Jim Gordon. I want to point out that, first of all, the Gotham series has a great Jim Gordon. It kind of focuses on Jim Gordon, his fight against all the craziness that goes in Gotham City. Surprised that people don't move or the real estate just plummets, but you know, I guess it's a comic book, so apparently that doesn't matter. But yeah, we've seen so many different versions of him. I wanted to start off with Dieter and ask him, which version of Jim Gordon so far, James Gordon, did you feel like is the best? And Josh disappeared, so hopefully he comes back. But we'll go with Dieter first, and we'll go with the beard.
It's Gary Oldman. I will not be taking questions at this time.
Can you remind me who that is?
Gary Oldman is the Nolan Jim Gordon.
Yeah,
great Jim Gordon.
Yeah, he looks like Jim Gordon stepped off the page. Gary Oldman, of course, is a fabulous actor, and
in his own right.
Noting, to my memory, really, Gary Oldman is the Jim Gordon that gets the biggest character arc.
Sure.
from being a police captain to becoming a commissioner, from learning, from fearing Batman to trusting Batman. It's kind of the total Jim Gordon package. The only thing he's missing is a badass redheaded daughter who fights crime, and then I'd be perfectly happy. But yeah, it's Gary Oldman. Next question.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just throw it in there. I'll be quick with I agree with you. And I think what they did with the Nolan series is they were able to basically put the audience in Jim Gordon's shoes and basically show what the city looks like to a regular person in Gotham. Not from Bruce Wayne's point of view, but from a regular citizen's point of view. And just the struggle, just the hopelessness that you felt in that city. You remember in Batman Begins when he's with Flash and, he sees him, being dirty and giving money out to the mob. He's like, I'm not going to rat on you. I'm no rat, but there's no one to rat to anyway because the city is a absolute cesspool, right? So you get to see basically
to be a rat, but the system is so fucked that I can't be.
Exactly. So you're seeing how the city looks like to a regular person who is just a layman rather than Bruce Wayne. I thought they did a really good job in that by showing the character arc. Because before, I think in the Batman Robin, Batman Forever, basically all Jim Gordon did there was turn on the bat signal, and that's all his police expertise was. That was just stopped. Like if you look at the Gotham City Police handbook, it says, what do you do as your job? Number 1, turn on the bat signal. After that, look helpless. And yeah, I think that'll be it for the day. I think I can collect my commission, my check at the end of the day after that. Yeah, sure. So yeah, definitely they did a lot with that character. And yeah, do you agree with the Beard? Do you feel like Nolan took the cake on that?
I think Nolan had a great Jim Gordon, and I'm not doubting that at all. But when I think, again, I'm referencing the Arkham games. When I think of Batman and Gordon, I think of a partnership. And I think the Pattinson, Jeffrey Wright's Gordon really nailed that on the head. And so he is my top tier Jim Gordon now.
Interesting.
You guys are really selling me on this movie. I can't wait to see it.
I hope I'm not overhyping it. But I just love it so much.
No.
Yeah.
I might get out of the movie. I can't trust that fucking Beard.
Let me astray.
I need you to elaborate a little bit, though, Beard. Like, what about this relationship made you feel like this was different from other ones in the past?
They're solving these crimes almost together. Like the way they talk to each other, you can tell that during the 2 years that he's been Batman, they've had this ongoing back and forth, figuring stuff out, talking things out together, coming to the conclusion of what's going on. Like Batman's detective side, this is his partner.
I like it. And we'll round it out with Josh, because I think me and Josh had a little bit different of a view of this Jim Gordon. So I definitely want to see what Josh feels about who's the best Jim Gordon so far, and how I felt about the Jim Gordon and the Batman.
So earlier I alluded to this, and I said how I wanted to criticize somebody, and then I had beef with somebody, and here we are. I have beef with this Jim Gordon. I got some beef. No, I was talking about this with EJ the other night, and the truth is that I couldn't really put my finger on it. So I say I have beef, but it was more to dramatize the moment. I just don't like this Jim Gordon. I do agree with you, Beard, that you get to see the partnership, which I think is cool. But the Jim Gordon itself, the portrayal, I wasn't a big fan of. I prefer the Nolan Jim Gordon as far as live action goes, but I honestly still don't think that we've nailed it. My favorite Jim Gordon, I'm going to cheat again because that's what I'm here to do, is the one from the Batman animated series. That Jim Gordon is awesome. And I want that in real action. I want, the trench coat and the hat, and it's pouring rain out and he's sopping wet. Maybe he's got a cigarette or a pipe. He's got like this tiny little crappy notepad, and I want the mustache. We did get the mustache. That's very important to have, just a fat mustache. I need my Jim Gordon to have a fat mustache.
He's got to have it. If he doesn't have a caterpillar on his face,
yeah. You cannot see his upper lip. Like that's just not allowed.
Yeah.
Are you kind of saying aesthetically the way J.K. Simmons looked in Batfleck?
I mean,
honestly,
J.K. Simmons looked great.
Yeah.
He looked great. We just didn't get enough of him for me to put him on a list.
Yes. Aesthetically the look, but it's really just, I appreciated that Batman and Alfred had a relationship in this movie, but just outside of that, and again, maybe after I watch it again, I'll be able to formulate a little bit more specifics. but I just wasn't digging it. Every time I saw him on screen, the scenes he was in, I'm like, this really isn't it for me. It's not that it was bad. It's not that I was like upset that he was on screen. It just really wasn't my cup of tea. So we have yet another guest. It is the second or other half. I don't know if you want to say the better half or not, but
the birthday boy,
the birthday boy himself.
Oh no!
Hey, hold up. Who's intentionally spending their birthday with us?
Yeah, that's a poor choice.
So we have the man, the myth, the legend.
Brosius Mayo, my guy.
Yo, Brosius, my dude. What's going on, guys?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going? Happy birthday, apparently.
Yeah, happy birthday.
So not only am I intentionally spending my birthday with y'all, I just actually spent my whole birthday at Anime Fest here in Jackson, Mississippi, raising money for Children's of Mississippi Hospital. So
Nice.
That's awesome.
So
Excellent.
What a-
So
introduce
he is
yourself.
clearly the best of us.
Yeah, a real life Bruce Wayne. He's actually a philanthropist. Like, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if only I had Bruce Wayne's bankroll. That,
Yeah.
There we go.
So,
but yeah,
go ahead and introduce
Josh,
yourself.
good to see you again.
Good to see you.
EJ, I've seen plenty of your videos where you're
Thank
in
you.
it as well. I loved y'all's Invincible breakdown.
Yes.
Thank
We
you.
did an episode
We were very
about
proud of
Invincible, but we did not go nearly into the detail. Like, I learned stuff, even though I did research for our episode. I learned stuff from y'all's episode that I should have known. Like, that's how I feel about it anyway.
Thank you,
Thank
man.
you.
Oh, man.
He
So
hasn't
what are y'all
seen the
talking
Batman.
about? That movie I haven't seen yet?
Well, more in general than Batman. But yeah.
We're talking about live action Batman, and see, you're in good company here because our third night here, Dieter, has also not seen the movie. So you are kindred spirits. So we have both halves of the Bear and the Beard podcast. We shouted you guys out at the beginning of the stream, and now we have both of you here live. We have, for the
What a
first time
collab.
ever, all on
Hashtag
one
blessed.
stream. We hashtag blessed. We have the Bear, the Beard, and all three nights. What a time to be alive, folks. What a
Right?
time.
You, yours versus me and mine, as Drake would say. The guys are putting together a team.
I find it really funny because over on the Bear and the Beard podcast, Josh has a nickname. I don't know if y'all have a nickname for him on y'all's show, but he's the first night only because he was the first night of the Knights of the Nerd Table to be on an episode of ours.
Nice.
So I guess we're gonna have to do like a Peter 1, Peter 2, Peter 3 thing when EJ and you come start getting all the episodes as well.
Oh, love it. Peter 1, Peter 2. Which, by the way, I know that that's Spider-Man, of course. It's not necessarily the Batman discussion. But obviously, I think Tobey Maguire should have been Peter 1. I was like, hold on a second, youngster.
You're Peter 1.
Yes.
So talking about Batman, have we gotten to who's your favorite live action Batman yet for
We were
everybody?
breaking it down a little bit, and
So,
by different aspects.
funnily enough, we don't actually have favorite Batman on here, but it felt like the natural way to end it anyways. We're on Jim Gordon. So far, we've done Batmobile Tech.
Oh,
Alfred
J.K. Simmons,
Jones.
visually, probably best Jim Gordon, but best
There you go.
live action interpretation. I did like, and I can never remember the actor, but Christian Bale's
Gary
Yes,
Oldman.
Gary
yes,
Oldman.
that's
was very
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
that's what
That's the correct answer. Yes.
that is the correct answer. Yes.
I gave the wrong answer. No.
So why don't we have you on? Why don't we
I
just
do want to
let
say
them
though,
run?
if we could bring a non-live action to life, I need Jim Gordon from the Arkham video game series. That's the Jim
fair.
Gordon I need brought to life and on screen.
So let's
Man,
just
that
do-
Gordon has seen some shit. Like,
Right?
you can tell in his
This,
eyes.
this is how it happened. This is how the Batman died. Like, I need that guy.
Good Kevin Conroy impression, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and we'll do a lightning round with you since we have you on. We'll get you caught right back
Yeah.
up. So we'll go quick and we'll
Okay.
start with Batmobile. Favorite live action Batmobile.
Oh man. Aesthetically, like just visually,
Whichever.
Batman Forever, I think looked the coolest. But practically, like if I had to choose, like if I was Batman and I was going to the garage and all of the Batmobiles were there, I gotta go with Christian Bale's. The Tumbler, the Tumbler was just it made
Yeah, screw
sense.
you, Dieter. Screw you.
Dieter.
Screw you, Dieter.
That the classic line, but does it come in black? That just
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm alone on this one, man. I hate the Tumbler. I can't stand it.
Adam
I'm
West
the only
Batmobile.
one here.
now.
Yeah.
Now I will say, because it kind of resembles the Tumbler too, the Arkham Knight Batmobile, specifically the one in Arkham Knight, the one that can go into tank mode. That is probably my favorite overall, but from the movies, it's definitely the Tumbler.
Yeah. Excellent.
All right.
Excellent. All right, the next one up is the
next
tech. Who do you think is the most tech savvy Batman?
You know, it I gotta give it to from movies. I gotta give it to Ben. I gotta give it to Ben Affleck because the only time we saw. Don't get me wrong, we saw Christian Bale kind of putting together some stuff for the outfit, but we don't know like how much of that like he already knew how to do, and it didn't show it showed a crafty side, not so much a techie side to me.
Yeah.
But I give it to Ben because I feel like though he might not have known how to mechanically do a lot of the stuff that his Batman did, he knew enough to instruct Alfred on how to do it. And that I think for me gives the techie side, especially Snyder Cut, Ben Affleck. So
That's
yeah.
right.
I can see
That's right. That's right. The next one we got, that actually leads right into it. Who's your favorite Alfred on film?
Okay, Gotham Alfred, young
That's a good
Alfred,
one.
John
teaching Bruce
Pertwee.
Wayne how to protect himself, how to take a punch. He's
talked
my
about
favorite
this.
Alfred ever.
Sean Pertwee. Yep. Is it Petrie? Petrie, or how do you pronounce her name?
Petrie, I think it's Petrie. Yeah. He's my favorite Alfred Pennyworth, hands down. Like
anyone
all the
seen
movie
it?
ones have been great, but Gotham exists. So
Has anyone seen
Sure,
Pennyworth,
that
like the original? Like I guess they were doing like a solo thing with Alfred called Pennyworth. Did you see that?
I haven't watched it, but that's on
haven't
HBO
watched
Max if anyone's interested in looking at that
Yeah.
up, though. I haven't watched it, but I imagine it's probably good.
I've never watched it.
Like, even like die-hard comic book people, I've never heard anyone talk about it. It's so weird to me.
which
Yeah.
I mean that might mean that it's a blessing in disguise because normally if you're not hearing anything about it good, then it might actually be good. If you're hearing if you're hearing all good stuff, then of course go check it out. If you're not hearing anything, it's like that gray area. Like
Yeah.
maybe it's like a hidden gem and we just don't know it yet.
Nice. All right, next round, just lightning round for you. Best rogue gallery on screen.
Batman Forever, Jim Carrey's Riddler, and Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face.
I love that you're giving that love.
I love it so much.
Love it. Interesting. You're a Jim Carrey fan?
Technically, that would also make Schwarzenegger's.
Yeah, it would.
It still counts though. I mean, I know it was very campy, but I like that Rogues Gallery.
For what it's worth, until we're disproven, we have been lumping the Schumacher and Burton movies as one canon.
Okay.
Although apparently I've been told that this might change with Ezra Miller's Flash movie.
Yeah, when the
But
Flash
as we've
movie comes out in
established earlier
27
today,
years.
the Flash
when
movie
the Flash
doesn't
breaks the
exist
universe,
until it's
things
in
change.
theater.
You know.
Yeah.
Oh, we better get that Flash movie.
Oh, we better.
We're never seeing it, guys. Just forget about it.
Don't tell a Flash fan
EJ's
that.
calling it now. Never seen it.
We're never seeing it. We thought for
As
sure we
the
were gonna
one
see it.
person on Earth who was super excited for New Mutants, welcome to the club, guys. First time?
Okay, so I haven't watched that yet. I've wanted to, mostly because Arya Stark's in it. So
Yeah.
right,
It's
Michael.
honestly, it is better. It is better than you would think it would be.
Well,
I really enjoy
Yeah,
if
Are-
a Night of the Nerds table says check it out, I'll check it out.
that's exactly what
Are,
I want to
are
hear.
you a big like New Mutants like Ileana Rasputin?
Not really.
Sinclair
Like I
character?
don't know much about the New Mutants at all, actually. That's why
So
I never watched Legion. I never read the comics. Captain America is my favorite hero, and since he doesn't deal with the X-Men a lot, it doesn't translate. So
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
As
So what do you-
an X fan, they did a great job, and we've got more Batman stuff to talk about.
Yeah. So what do you feel
Hit me
is
up
the
later.
best bat suit? What makes the Batman the best bat suit in live action? Give it to us.
well, definitely not bat nipples. So that's
Here we are again,
Uh,
talking about nipples.
we don't talk about Clooney's bat suit, obviously.
We don't talk
Oh, we
about
talked
Clooney.
We don't talk about Clooney. No. I think well, see, I haven't seen Pattinson. I've seen pictures of Pattinson's. So basing it off of that, I'm gonna go with Pattinson's because it looks more like they've put some care into it. Beard has been very, very nice enough to try not to spoil anything in the movie for me. So I don't know how actually practical it is, but we had a debate, or well, it wasn't a debate, it was a conversation where we were talking about how are they ever going to give us like a comic book accurate bat suit? And I said, I would love to see it. Don't get me wrong, like the yellow in the emblem, and all that. But, and like the blue kind of like, I guess, shading and the cape. And the whole thing, my whole opinion on it was, I just can't wait to hear the actual excuse they give for the practical use of the color yellow on a bat suit. So I can't wait to hear the reasoning. It's going to be awesome when they finally do it.
I always
Love
liked the
it.
reasoning from the comics, which was the same reasoning behind Punisher's skull, which is the yellow in Batman's emblem and the white in Punisher's skull is where the Kevlar was the thickest. So you use that as a target to draw fire to that area, preventing weaker parts from getting hit, which I always thought was a really cool explanation.
That's
I
a
like
great
that a
explanation. It makes a
lot.
lot of sense. They use that in Arkham Knight, as a matter of fact. Jason Todd tells everybody, don't go for the chest because that's where his armor's the thickest. But the yellow in a real world setting of a Batman movie doesn't make sense as a color choice. Maybe white or red or something like that would make more sense. So for them to choose yellow,
just thought it
that's
looked
going to be
cool.
an interesting conversation between him and Alfred, I feel like, when we finally get it.
Interesting. So the next one we had up, or we're almost all caught up. How do you feel? Who do you think is the best fighter? Who's the best brawler? Like, if you put all the Batmen in a room together, Super Smash Bros. Brawl style, right? Who's coming out there alive?
Arkham Knight series Batman, the video game Batman, probably, because they had the DLC where we actually see him train with the League of Shadows. We don't see a lot of that in Christian Bale's movies. So, you could take those video games and make a movie using that engine that they made those, and I'd watch it. The cutscenes, especially from Arkham Knight, are unbelievable to me. So if we're talking like the multi-universe of all media, him. Now, if we're talking movies, just from the trailer, Pattinson. Like, if we're talking live action movies, I got to give it to Pattinson because they took time to show that he can actually do hand-to-hand combat. I'm sorry. Like, look, Ben Affleck surprised me. I really did appreciate his Batman. He's not a fighter. He's getting a little older. He didn't do all the range of motion. Christian Bale, same thing. Love them to death. Love their on-screen performances, but they didn't take time to do the fighting. They finally got a young, buff guy to get in there and actually make the movements, do it right. So Pattinson, and that's just based off the trailer. I might be completely wrong when I see the movie. I don't know.
You're not.
Not in my
You're
opinion. I think you nailed it right on the head.
You're good. All right,
Excellent.
so we already heard about your Jim Gordon, so we can go ahead and skip past that, and we'll go to our last category that we have, other than the best Batman overall, which we will end with.
Yep.
We can talk about Gotham aesthetic. So, which has the best looking Gotham? Now, none of us have talked about this yet, so we're going to go ahead and we will start with Dieter, because I bet you Dieter has a hot, spicy take about which Gotham he likes the best. It's probably an awful trash take, but spicy nonetheless.
I mean, my hot spicy take is I don't know which one to choose. This was when you sent me the show.
Okay, so let's go ahead and switch to someone else now. I'm having way too much fun with this program.
You really are. You really are. It's fine. It's fine. No, I've got opinions. It's a tie for me though. It straight up is. It's a tie between Burton and Nolan because Burton was just so out there. The goth aesthetic, obviously the goth aesthetic from the Burton films is the progenitor of the Art Deco aesthetic from Batman the Animated Series, which is, for my money, the most iconic skyline in Batman history, with the police blimps floating high above and the orange sky, like the sky that's perpetually at dusk. It's beautiful, and Burton's Gotham is beautiful in that same way. It's beautiful in its ugliness. It's beautiful in its macabre nature. On the other hand, Nolan shot everything in Chicago, which is a city that I lived in for a short but wonderful period of my life. It is my favorite city in the United States, if not the world. And there is something very special. If you've ever lived in a location that has had filming shot, there is something very special, and there's something very much that ties you to a piece of media when you can watch it and say, I used to walk down that street. And like the tumbler chase in The Dark Knight, when they filmed on Lower Wacker, I know where that was. That was a 20-minute walk from my house. Like I that skyline is so much a part of me from my life and experiences there, that to throw that away would almost feel like a portrayal or a betrayal rather. And so I think in terms of sheer aesthetics, Burton. In terms of the one that means the most to me, Nolan, easily.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll go real quick. I actually am going to give it to my boy Robert Pattinson. I think his Gotham aesthetic is just beautiful, and it looks, because Gotham really is supposed to be a reflection of what New York City is. And for those of you who don't know, I actually lived in Brooklyn for 2 or 3 years, so I kind of have a feeling of how that looks like. And so this new movie really made it out to kind of replicate the New York City experience, especially with Madison Square Garden type, the Times Square look in one of the scenes. So I really like that. And so as far as the Gotham aesthetic, I got to give it to my boy Pattinson. Was never a fan of Burton. I'm not a fan of Burton in general. So you're not going to find me simping for him too much. I just think it looks weird and out of place. And
how do you feel about Zack Snyder? You a fan of him at all? Or?
Oh yeah, big fan of him. I think he didn't really give a Gotham City though.
Hate him.
Yeah, he didn't give a Gotham City though, because like his Batman was in Gotham City for a little bit, but we didn't necessarily get to flesh that out as much. So when you're talking about the full fleshed out Gotham City, you got to give it to my boy Pattinson. I think that it's a no-brainer in my opinion.
I was just trying to see if I can get you to criticize Snyder. That's all.
Yeah.
Fun fact, real quick, just if you're curious, in the comics, Gotham City is traditionally depicted as being in New Jersey, which was something I literally learned like 3 days ago watching an episode of a very excellent show called Actually. Gotham is based off of New Jersey, and I believe Metropolis is set, I'm going to double check this, but I believe it is canonically set in Delaware. Of all places.
Yep, I learned that last year on Batman Day, as a matter of fact, when we were doing trivia at our local nerd pub. Yep.
Yeah, interesting. No, so the funny thing is I'm looking this up now. Gotham City is traditionally depicted as being located in New Jersey, but Gotham's look and atmosphere was primarily influenced by New York City, which is interesting. That's what interesting.
But you got to admit it kind of makes sense. Like if New Jersey had a true like New York style urban location, it would be Gotham, because Gotham's terrible, just like New Jersey.
Exactly. New Jersey slander. I love it. There's few things I like more than slandering New Jersey. Love it. I think the beard.
There was that one episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine where Jake and Amy were looking for an apartment, and they found a really nice one, and they were like, "So, all right, what's the catch?" And the guy's like, "No catch, just we're technically in New Jersey." I freaking
I
love
don't know.
it.
That feels like a catch to me.
Price value drops like a 2K. You know?
Guys, we're gonna lose all of our viewers from New Jersey. What are you doing? All of our Jersey viewers, all of our Jersey subscribers are rushing to their computer right now to unsubscribe.
All 0 of them are out.
What have you done?
Yeah, does any of you, Josh, do you have anything to add on that as far as the Gotham aesthetic or anything?
Yeah, so I fall pretty similar in line with Dieter here. I appreciate Tim Burton for what Tim Burton is. And just the Gothic aesthetic is just really, really cool. It's really interesting. Really
I'm sorry. I'm
The
sorry.
Gothic Gotham aesthetic.
You're gonna make him up, Chuck.
Oh,
You need
are
a
you
boost there, EJ?
you okay, EJ?
No, it's fine. If I just anytime I hear Tim Burton's name, my chest starts tightening up. It's weird.
EJ, did you have
But now
something
you
you
know how
wanted
we
to
feel
say?
every time you talk about Snyder or Nolan.
EJ,
So.
go ahead and speak your mind. Let me give you a platform. No, oops, I removed him from the stream.
I've been in that space. It's not fun in there.
So-
People to the corner.
The Phantom Zone.
Okay, so yeah, I like the Tim Burton aesthetics, and I do really like Nolan's Gotham as well. Pattinson's Gotham is really nice, but it's hard to appreciate it, I guess. Yeah, it's hard to. It's a little dark, and I know it's supposed to be dark, but it's a little too dark. I want to see it a little more. Yeah,
I wonder
wanna see
if, because they're going to be doing that. HBO's ordered some series that are supposed to be set in this Gotham,
Yeah.
and I hope that in the future maybe you'll see it a little differently. Because I personally think it's the best Gotham we've ever seen as well. I got to side with EJ. I think it captures the dark and hopelessness of Gotham perfectly. I think it's the best Gotham I've ever seen in live action, at least.
Okay. What about you,
Yeah.
my friend Bear?
Well, so I know it's not a movie, but I'm going to go back to live action. I'm going to Gotham again, and I think y'all all made very fair points, especially like because you can't say Snyder's Gotham. We saw very little time of it, and I think for you to really enjoy any Gotham, you got to spend some time in it. You got to actually
On street
spend some
level.
time in it. Like we had 3 movies with Christian Bale. That is another good reason why Nolan's Gotham is so recognizable and so beloved, because yes, it was all filmed in Chicago. It felt real, and you spent a lot of time in it because Bruce Wayne's riding around in the Lamborghini, going to the stuff with Dent and everything else, the car chase scenes, all that. If you don't get that time to spend with the city should be a character in the movie.
Yes.
And if it's not, you're doing a disservice to the fans
Agreed.
and to yourself. So that's why I'm going to say from Gotham, because the whole show takes place in Gotham. It's the one I fell in love with the most because I've spent the most time there. And it showed a great side of Arkham Asylum. It showed a great side of Blackgate Prison. It showed the GCPD, how they were always outmatched and they still try. But it also showed how the corruption started creeping in. You get to see the families and how they live.
I would like
the
to
crime
change my
families and all
answer.
that.
I have to agree. I want to change my answer. I'm going to go with the Gotham. You made some really good points, and I had kind of forgotten about that Gotham. We talked about the show a couple of times. Like when you came on and right off the cuff, we're talking about Alfred. We all kind of agreed that it was so cool to see Alfred from a different perspective in Gotham, where he's raising Bruce versus just being Bruce, Batman's partner.
Some of my favorite moments from that show was the early on when Bruce wanted to learn, but then Alfred was fighting with himself, about whether to train him to do any of it or not. And so some of it's just watching him develop. And same thing with the city itself in that show. It just, you see it from a different perspective because all the characters are not Batman.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
we talked about we just to throw like something out there that might happen maybe in the future sometime soon, whatever. We talked about doing a fan-made movie all about Batman that never shows Batman. The main character will actually be a low-level thug in one of the families, and he's going to be the main character, and it's going to be like in the first week that Batman is active, and he's still a myth. He's still, people don't believe that it's one guy beating up all these crime guys and stuff like that. And I feel like if we don't do a service to Gotham and treat Gotham like a character, even in a little fan-made film, we're gonna lose. We're gonna lose something somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So to wrap this up, we've been doing this stream almost for 2 hours now. So I really want to get to the finality of this, right? Who is the best live action Batman? Now we already know who the best Batman is, period. It's Kevin Conroy. So I'm not taking any questions on that. Yeah. Like that's it. But
You get no argument from me, sir.
I
He's the
appreciate
best
that.
Batman. I love the fact they got him for the CW series for that crossover.
Yeah.
That, like, seeing him actually step into live action Bruce Wayne. We may not have been able to see him suit up, but it was awesome watching him walk around and hear that iconic voice.
And he still voices him in the video games.
He still does. I think Roger Craig Smith sometimes does it as well. I think
For
in
Origins, it was Roger Craig Smith.
For Origins, it was him, but for all the other ones, it was Conroy.
Exactly. So Conroy's the best there, but we got to combine both as well. So who is the best Batman and Bruce Wayne? That's kind of the answer that I kind of want from all of you guys. I'll go first because, again, I'm the resident Batman guy. Here's the thing. I like Batman in all his iterations, and I'm going to give a little shout out to someone who doesn't get as much press. He's not the best, but he could have been better. Val Kilmer's Batman Forever was actually pretty solid.
Yeah.
I think he put together a great performance. His voice sounded good. As Bruce Wayne, he was eccentric but still charming at the same time. You really enjoyed that character. Batman Forever as a film is kind of messy, but I think Val Kilmer is actually the best Batman out of the Burton and Schumacher era. I like him more than Keaton, and I'll be honest, I never really enjoyed Keaton. He doesn't really play Bruce Wayne in a way that I think is interesting. He plays him as kind of this eccentric. He's not really a ladies' man, really. I can't imagine this guy going out, and just having a ton of women attracted to him, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't see him as that other version of Bruce Wayne. So when it comes to the overall package, I really like what Christian Bale and Ben Affleck. I almost want to choose both of them, to be honest, because they did things in different ways. They're able to cut up the Bruce Wayne from the Batman, really, and you got to see the difference, the dichotomy of each. Where you saw him as Bruce Wayne, where he was kind of doing his thing and showing people his mask. Where at the same time, when he was Batman, there was a clear switch. I think Batfleck almost did the best because if you've seen that BVS scene where he's at Lex Luthor's party, you see him switch from characters all the time during that party, from Batman to Bruce Wayne. When Grace catches him in the room when he's getting the information, right, you see him go, I had too much to drink, right? You know how it is. Love those shoes. They switch back to Batman. He's like, I can't stay down. You know what I mean? He switches from character. He really made a difference between them. Didn't really dig Pattinson as much as Bruce Wayne. I felt that Playboy character was not there. Maybe they're branching that out a little bit, but we'll see. So right now, it's almost a tie for me. Ben Affleck and Christian Bale. I really can't choose. It depends what day I wake up on when I say who's my favorite Batman on film. I'll go to Josh first because I think he's the first on my screen. I'll go down from there. Josh, who's your favorite Batman?
All right. My favorite Batman is actually Robin. Dick Grayson, please. Yeah, so I guess if I have to choose a Batman, I will. I waited till now to make this decision because it is a difficult decision. We have had some really good iterations. I think they all have their different strengths, right? For me, I think it's between the three most recent ones. I appreciate the classics for what they are, but I think it's really between the three most recent iterations that we've had, and I have to give the nod to Pattinson because I think he really nails Batman in such a cool way. And it sort of reminds me of what they did with Spider-Man, right? Where they cast Tobey Maguire, and they cast Andrew Garfield, and you had these grown men trying to play a high school age kid, and it just looks kind of funny sometimes and hard to believe. And I feel like Pattinson is very believable as the Batman that he is, because it's supposed to be, if I'm remembering correctly, this is supposed to be Batman 2 years in, 2 years of him starting being the Batman in the city. And I appreciate that it feels real. It feels the things he's doing, right? He's a little sloppy at times. He's not totally refined yet because he's only been doing this 2 years. And I think that this Batman is the easiest Batman to relate to, I guess, and to really feel like makes sense, I guess. Not that the other ones are bad or that they don't make sense at all. I just feel like this Batman delivers just a little bit more than Christian Bale and Ben Affleck do. And if I had to order them, I would probably say Pattinson, then Bale, then Affleck. Probably.
Nice.
As far as Batman's go.
The Beard, what are your thoughts, my guy?
So I have to agree for the Batman. I think Robert Pattinson is the best Batman. But when it comes to Bruce Wayne, I'm going to give it to Ben Affleck. I think the kind of cockiness that he presents when he's being Bruce Wayne, like at the nice fancy parties and stuff, is totally Bruce Wayne. And then when he's back on mission, even if he's not in the Batman aesthetic, you can see his whole change tone, because Bruce Wayne is the disguise. Batman fans know that. Bruce Wayne is the disguise. And that is one complaint I do have about the Robert Pattinson Batman, is that it's not that much of a disguise. But it's only a half complaint, because I think that's the point they're going for now. I think we're going to see a different Bruce Wayne in the future with this Batman.
Love it. Love it. Dieter, what's the Batman that has your heart?
Oh, is he frozen?
Is he frozen?
Oh, no, he's not.
There he's
I'm
back.
going to tell you a story.
Oh, Lord.
Back when I was in college, I was in college from 2010 to 2014. So I was in college in my senior year when they announced the casting for Ben Affleck. And I was one of those people who was so blindly furious about this. It was like, Ben Affleck can't be Batman. He's Ben Affleck. I remember Daredevil, which actually, in retrospect, Ben Affleck's Daredevil, at least the director's cut, not that bad. Definitely worth a watch.
He's fading.
Yeah, he's fading out. He's frozen now.
No.
Here, let me do this. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna remove Dieter, and I'll see if he can reconnect himself here in a minute. But
I think he looks fine now when I see him in the corner. Bring him back in and see if that works. All right.
I don't know what just happened there. Anyways, point of this story is I really hated Ben Affleck. So for an April Fool's Day joke, my roommates plastered my bathroom head to toe, floor to ceiling, with pictures of Ben Affleck with the Batman mask photoshopped on it. And I had to spend my entire morning cleaning that up. And despite that, I'm still going to call him my favorite Batman.
Perfect segue.
I learned a valuable lesson from that, which is sometimes actors, you think you know what they can do and they surprise you. Ben Affleck is great for all the reasons listed previously, and for one other reason that's very special to me, he's the first guy who I ever felt nailed Batman's voice. Keaton's voice was too reedy, George Clooney's voice was too traditionally handsome, Bale's voice was downright cartoony. Ben Affleck is the closest we've come to a Batman whose voice mirrors the cadences and differences of Conroy's.
Agreed. And yeah, so I definitely love what you said there, Dieter. Sorry that you had some technical difficulties. but we'll get
Happens.
right back. Yeah, we'll get right back into it. The Bear, we're gonna finish off with you, my guy. Who's your best live action Batman?
So, I do want to point out again, I haven't seen the movie. So, but now I had already heard the reports of, Pattinson's Bruce Wayne's not great and all this other stuff. Not without examples, of course, because spoilers. But so without seeing that movie, I'm selecting from all the others. But I will say this in defense before I even see the movie. If this is 2 years in, like if Pattinson's is 2 years into him being Batman, let's try to remember, like, for the first 3 years of Batman being Batman, we learned this in the comics, we learned this in the animated series. He was struggling of how to juggle the Playboy persona and the Batman at night. He was still kind of struggling on how to act in the light of day and be who he needed to be at night. So I'm just putting it out there for people that have seen it. If you look at it through that lens, like my co-host said, thank you, Beard. Maybe they're going to flush that out, and I hope they do. If they haven't so far, I hope they do. With that being said, I refuse to conform to your rules of normalcy and pick one person of Batman because, as Beard said, Bruce Wayne's the mask. So what I will give you, however, is my favorite Batman and my favorite Bruce Wayne because they are two separate people. I agree with you that Ben Affleck, Dieter, is probably the best Batman. He is my favorite Batman. But Christian Bale nailed the Bruce Wayne for me. The suave, sophisticated, going out, spending money, buying hotels, going to the board meeting, and something about him and Morgan Freeman's back and forth just had me rolling.
They did have great chemistry. Yeah.
I don't know if it was Morgan Freeman or if it was Bale or if it was both of them together, but both of them I think played the role so well because you don't have to lie to me, Mr. Wayne. And someone rolls around in my tank in the middle of the night, I know what you're doing, So for my favorite Bruce Wayne, it's Christian Bale. For my Batman, however, it's Ben Affleck's Batman himself.
That's
nice.
Amazing. I want to say something on Christian Bale. Although I don't choose him as my favorite Bruce Wayne, there is one scene that comes to mind of him being an iconic Bruce Wayne. It's the scene where he's trying to get to the hospital and he stops. I can't remember the scene exactly. He crashes his Lamborghini into something to save someone and then plays it off as, oh, I have no idea what's going on because I'm a Playboy idiot. Still being the hero while going on with the Bruce Wayne persona. I love that.
Yeah, no, and you see him click into it at the party in the Dark Knight when the Joker comes in. He just goes in, he's interrupting those people doing God's knows what on his couch, and then he goes into the guard goes, hands up, pretty boy, just slaps him down, and he goes back into his Batman mode. Yeah, I agree. Bruce Wayne, Christian Bale had a really good balance of it, and so did Ben Affleck, and that's kind of the dichotomy I have there. I can't choose which one I like the most, really. And the reason why I think I like these two in particular is because of the arcs into both their characters. Christian Bale's Batman is the savior of Gotham. That's who he is. He is the savior of Gotham City. He protects it. Now, Ben Affleck is the first one we get to see interact with Superman, with BVS.
He's the hero the city deserves.
Exactly. And one line, I know people have some issues with this, but when he finally gets that team together, he realized he can't do everything alone. He has to get the Justice League together. He's on that platform, and they all kind of rise up after Cyborg fixes his plane, and then Cyborg goes, the plane wanted to fly. Flight is its nature. Batman looks at him and says, yours too. And then he tells Alfred, faith. That scene right there just showed the whole arc when he was just talking before about how he had to destroy Superman because if there's a 1% chance he is a threat, you have to take it as an absolute certainty. By the way, that is a
I know what it is.
That's a quote by our former vice president under the George W. Bush administration. So
there is video evidence of me having an absolute mental breakdown.
So,
hey, guys, I really don't want to interrupt you, but I got to bounce. It's been really fun hanging out with y'all. But we just got done with con, so I got to unload some stuff. Get supper started, all the parental things.
Just tell everybody where they can find you real quick.
Yeah, we're on YouTube. along with our awesome friends, the Knights of the Nerds Table. Go and check us out, the Bear and the
Thank
Beer
you.
podcast. We're on all your audio streaming platforms. If you like podcasts, type us in the search bar. We'll probably pop up. We have the website, www.thebearandthebeerpodcast.com. You can also email us at thebearandthebeerpodcast@yahoo.com. Send us topic ideas, stuff like that. I will leave you in the very capable hands of my majestically bearded, faithful co-host. In the meantime, I just want to tell you guys, thank you so much for having us on.
Thank you, my guy.
Absolutely.
Stay awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to collab more later, but I got to go.
All right.
Stay awesome. Much love, and I'll see y'all later.
Thank
I'm
you.
out.
Yeah, we're about to wrap up ourselves, actually. We've been on this for 2 hours. Thank everyone who kind of came in here and there to kind of watch what we were doing here. Like I said, we're really excited about Batman. I'm going to get my the Batman review out later, probably this week or the week after. So look out for that. And yeah, we're ready to kind of close up. You guys good, or anything else from you, Josh, Dieter?
No, I just want to say thank you so much.
Super
for
hungry.
coming on.
I'm ready for an hour. So.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Beard, and I look forward to
appreciate
hopping
your
on
beard
with you guys at some point.
Would love to have you guys on our show sometime.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
It'd be a pleasure.
Thank you to everybody who tuned in, and for everybody who will watch this later. Please like, comment, subscribe, all the fun stuff that you're
All
supposed
things
to
you're
do
supposed
over on
to.
YouTube. And thank you guys so much. We'll see you later.
much love.
Have a good one.